Hello,
Good morning, Robert. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
You're looking well. I'm doing good too. I'm doing good too.
I mean, I was just out picking the first of the blueberries for the season.
Oh, wow. Oh, nice.
They're
Nice,
big and
nice.
juicy.
Yeah.
We have, blueberries, we're told, you need to be very carefully, cultivating them, and they don't like growing with anything else. And we got this huge set of bushes. It's all one clump, but I think it is several different strains up on the hummock out here. There's bamboo roots growing throughout it, among other weeds. I mean, we keep it somewhat weeded, but there's a lot going on that little hummock. And this just explodes in blueberries every year. Enough for the birds, and there are many of them, and all a number of neighbors come up and fill up, gallons.
Wow. 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 I've always wanted to plant blueberries, but I've never been in a place where it's worked. The lady next door planted, I think, 6 plants, and she's kind of down to 1, and it's never done anything. So it's not in the right place. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
don't think it
whatever
gets enough
reason,
sun.
this bush just absolutely loves where it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there's no rhyme, no reason, because I know it is easy to. We tried planting some elsewhere on the property and it didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they like where they want to be,
I don't blame them.
No. And I trust it too. I mean, I have a volunteer catalpa tree, and it's about 5 years old now. And it's probably 12 feet high, but I believe that the catalpa wood is kind of soft, and so it bends easily in the wind.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of wind, and it's not right now a very pretty looking tree. I'm hoping it'll spring back, but hasn't sprung back in 24 hours. And it's lost a couple of limbs, so we're going to have to prune it a bit, but yeah. But it's doing wonderfully because it is where it wants to be. And it's perfect for me. It shades my front door and porch.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, in the afternoon sun, it's just perfect. So, yeah.
well, hi, Ani.
Good
Good
morning,
morning.
Annie.
Good morning, dear friends. So sorry I'm late. I'm just late.
I was a little late as well.
I
Yeah.
was beginning to worry.
Had to walk to the store to get toilet paper.
Uh,
That takes precedence before being on time.
Yeah, I'll grant you that.
it does. I have shifted my toilet paper to a company called Grove because it's bamboo and it's really good toilet paper, and it costs me about the same or less than it would in the grocery store. So the grocery store, I can get 12 rolls for about $17, and they're smaller rolls and they're just horrible. They come apart and all of that. And the Grove is $10, $9.99 for 8 really big rolls. And if you spend like $29, then there's no shipping. So yeah, it's just been much more economical to do that. And I like the paper better.
So it comes by mail.
It does, in a box, which is the bad news, but yeah, but it's stuffed with paper. So they're as environmentally friendly as they can be. And the company they have a ton of stuff, so you can spend way more money. But I'm mainly toilet paper. And the other thing that I get from them actually is wild caught it's not coming.
Salmon?
It's Well, yeah, it's from salmon, I think, but it's an oil, and it's a vitamin that's good for eyes. So, and it's like, I don't know, $20 a bottle maybe, as opposed to 40 some other places.
I'm
So,
I'm satisfied with my current arrangement.
well, I'm doing everything I can because I do have macular degeneration, so I'm working on it. you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Mm. I had an interesting dream this morning. Um, we don't need to start with that, but that's kind of current. But anyway, I'm not oriented yet, so let's wait for that. See if it comes back up in a deliverable way.
Exactly.
Yeah, how are both of you in terms of the day, the moment, the current arising of things in your own lives?
We were talking blueberries.
Blueberries,
Yes. Robert has a blueberry bush. That's
a
euphoric.
blueberry bush?
Yeah, it's huge. It's like 12 feet high and 12
Wow.
feet diameter, to the whole complex. I mean, it's
Complex.
several different plants, I'm sure. And it just is prolific. It's enough for all the birds. And also we get gallons between Terry and I and our neighbors. We get gallons each year.
Wonderful.
And I was telling how you can't always believe everything they write in these, horticulture books because they isolate things.
Hmm.
They're not aware of interdependencies, or maybe
Yeah.
not
Yep.
even dependence the right word, but interrelationships. Like this one is thriving with bamboo. There must be several hundred bamboo roots that run through that area. Now I keep knocking down the sprouts, each year because I don't want any growing in that area, but the roots are already there and have been for years. And the roots are what's holding up the earth. It's almost like reinforcement
Mhm.
in the earth that is over the culvert, which is 35 years old and starting to rot out. So it's a very, very critical culvert that it never give out, but I feel somewhat confident because it's like, well, they use bamboo for reinforcing and all kinds of building construction in the Far East. So it's strong as can be. And all of those intertwined roots is actually holding up that dirt.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
reducing the weight on. So, I mean, there's this whole complex there. And for some reason, the blueberries love it. I mean, this has been year in, year out. There's never been a bad year for 15 years that I've been here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bamboo and blueberries in Georgia.
I can see you got stopped at the very first point, right? Yep, exactly.
Cool. That's new.
And there's kudzu as well.
And what?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Kudzu.
yeah.
But
It's an invasive species. Yeah.
that's a huge invasive species in this area.
What is?
Kudzu.
I didn't understand that.
Kudzu.
What is that? I've never heard of that before.
It's a weed, and
Vine.
it can grow 2 feet in one day, and you can actually watch it grow if you're feeling relaxed enough to sit for a while.
Well, that completes the triad right there. What is it called again? Spell it.
Kudzu. Kudzu. I think that is correct.
Yeah.
And it's Japanese.
kudzu, bamboo, and blueberries all together, right?
Yeah, this is
Cool.
all right next to our garden, in which I constantly weed out the bamboo and the kudzu. 15 years ago, we ruthlessly pulled its roots out, or it would just take over. I mean, in 1 year,
Yeah.
it would have completely taken over the whole area, and it had. I mean, we had a kudzu patch up there. Nobody was doing anything with it, and that's kind of how we inherited this land to play around with, because we cleared it. Wasn't being used for anything. It was derelict in everyone's eyes.
Well, what is kudzu?
Well, it grows. I mean, I could wander out there and catch
Is
you.
it a weed? Well, what's a
Oh,
weed?
it's a vine.
A vine. Okay.
Okay, Terry's going to go get some so you can see. The leaf actually looks like that proverbial fig leaf, you know, that covered the modesty of Adam and Eve, you know.
Nice.
It actually looks something like that. And when it's young, it's quite edible and evidently very nutritious. I mean,
I
it
didn't know that.
doesn't taste that good, but it's totally nutritious. And you wouldn't want to eat the more mature leaves because they get a bit bitter and tough. But right now would be the time when you could actually get some and eat, actually any time. It grows until November.
You're just putting me in touch with the fact that I know so little in the larger scheme of things. Teeny.
That's a very, very pithy statement, actually, because, you know,
It's true.
that nature has just such an incredible will to thrive.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And if you're not fighting it, well, I mean, you might say I fought the kudzu in our area, but you know, it's thriving elsewhere. Plenty of places. I don't stop it up there, and it mines. You know, it hasn't even tried to come back. It's funny because it's everywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's conscious.
This is Terry.
Hi.
Hey, Terry.
Be Ani and Catherine.
Ani and Catherine. Hi. Oops.
Oh, look at that.
Nice. Wow, it's pretty.
Yeah, and
That's
I mean,
a nicely shaped live. It looks like Africa.
yeah, it does,
Africa.
with a little bump on the side.
At least
Yeah.
one of them does.
But I mean, it's, you know, it's perfectly edible. It tastes a little chewy. This one, I think I got some of the younger stuff. It'd be better.
It's very pretty
I mean, it's
in
like
shape and color.
arugula.
That's probably why it was brought over as a decorative vine, would be my guess.
Uh-huh.
And
Little
it
did they
just went
know.
wild.
I mean, there are old tobacco fields throughout North Carolina that are covered up to 3 feet deep with kudzu now. It is running rampant all over the South.
I wonder what it adds to the soil, or takes
That
to
I
the
don't
soil. I'd be really curious.
But I'm sure it's happening
Because
all up
think
there.
things like dandelions, for instance, when they grow so profusely, they're actually preparing the soil for longer lived plants. So they're a pioneer species. They're actually there to help the soil grow. So I'm just wondering what kudzu does.
Kudzu grows so voraciously
Yeah.
and is able to climb and kill trees.
Yep.
So actually, I don't know. It might be, you know, a terminal species, because the thing was there's nothing that the problem was. It was
There's no competitor here.
planted. There's no competitor at all. Well, they're starting to be, because they brought over little bugs that look like ladybugs that eat it, that like it. So they're called kudzu bugs. But they're having a field day themselves because there's so much of it.
Yeah,
That was another bright idea that just
yes,
you know what I
yes,
mean?
yeah. Yeah, and then you wonder what the bugs do and who eats the bugs and yeah, how that gets balanced because there's got to be a predator for them too.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
It it puts me in sad touch with how citified I am,
Mhm.
always have been.
Well, you can read. I mean, I'm
when-
citified too.
Huh?
I'm citified too. I'm in a city, have been, but you just have to read. That's all.
Oh, it's not the same. Not hardly the same. Yeah. I mean, that's why the time in the forest was so wonderful, but I'd like that now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. It's interesting how what you've shared has touched me. Wasn't expecting that.
Mm.
Just the beauty of nature,
Yeah.
the thrivability, the diversity, the interdependence, the relationships.
Yeah, the fierceness.
It's so beautiful.
Well, there's also got another painting.
Ooh.
I can't take that call. So
Oh, look at that. Oh, Robert.
Whoa.
I was
Really?
walking with a friend of mine in California, actually, it was this last trip. And we're sitting there chatting away because I haven't been with him physically for, years. And I suddenly look up, that's the top of a block wall that runs along the street, along the sidewalk, and underneath the tree. And there's this guy. And he's sitting there looking at us saying, "Oh, I wish you guys would just go away and leave me alone. I'm busy here."
You're
How do you
interfering
get
with
the
my
book?
breakfast. Yeah.
So John took a photograph, and so I've been playing with that this past week.
Did you paint that in the book?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
I didn't know you were an artist.
Well, I mean, I've been doing such for most of my life, but I am suddenly now, for the first time in my life, really devoting time to it.
Really?
Yeah. So
Could we see a few more pages in your book?
sure. So this, I always do a cartouche or whatever they call the sketches, that came first. And then I put it to color. This one is because I wanted to play around
Oh,
with
nice.
painting. Well, this is taken from a painting by John Singer Sargent, because I love his watercolor style. And so I was just playing.
That's very good.
I
Very
didn't
nice.
get his. I mean, I've got a long way to go to match what he's able to do, and I acknowledge that, but it's fun to practice.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And
Oh, tell me this scene. What's this scene that you painted?
this one is
I mean, I like your face, but would you put that up again? I like looking at it.
this one is from a photograph that Terry had, a black and white. It's actually a postcard. It's actually a card. And she said, "Why don't you paint this and put some color to it? It's in black and white." So I painted it, and it's an English photograph, and so everything's tidy. And I said, "No, that's not the way I grew up. The way I grew up is in the middle of summer, everything is just a total profusion." So that's what I was trying to capture in this.
Nice.
Very nice.
Yes.
profusion, I don't know what that, I've never used that word, profusion.
Well, I may not be using it quite correctly, but a profuse is just a,
Profuse.
abundance.
Abundant.
Yeah,
And,
abundant, right,
everywhere, just everything going wild,
right.
which is the way it always was in Vermont when I was growing up, because there wasn't any farming going on anymore. So you'd let things grow, along the highways everywhere, the blackberries, as well as all the basically the fields all had birch seedling, and seedlings along with the grasses. But so everything would just get cut once a year, usually the end of August, just so that it couldn't grow into a new forest. But other than that, it was just this wild profusion of wildflowers, berries, everything.
Nice.
And that's the kind of nature that I grew up in. I loved it.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
I went to a new library here to listen to a talk, and they just finished it, I think, last year. And the front of it is planted as a meadow.
Mhm.
And when you walk through it, it smells so wonderful because everything's in bloom. And it looks, scrubby kind of, because it's a sorted plants. There's no, it doesn't have the nice symmetry of a lawn or a plantings. It's just a bunch of plants, but the smell, it was just lovely. It was just lovely. And the flowers, yellow and purple flowers everywhere. Yeah.
I'm prompted by this discussion and my response to what is so far. I need to find a place in nature.
Yep. Yeah, I have just done that. I now walk by the river. So I drive 1.7 miles with my dog and get out and walk along the river for a half hour or so every day. And I just really, really needed.
Yeah.
It's a small park, so part of it is quite manicured, but part of it is wild. Right along the bank is still wild. And then they've got this very manicured parkish place with grass and some plants and a path. So it's easy to walk, you can drive there, but it's still right on the river. And it just makes all the difference for me. I really need to do that.
I can, there are some parky kind of spaces around here that I can walk to, or I can take a bus and walk a little ways to an actual park. But I mean deeper than that. I mean like what's growing outside your window,
Yeah,
door.
that's why I'm trying to move, but good luck.
It just kind of prompts me to start investigating what are possible options for me for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
To be closer to that which is, to be in a more natural setting. Although Santa Barbara is wonderful, it's beautiful. Looking out my patio, it's lovely, but somehow you're into deeper. It's deeper where you are. I don't know how to put it yet, but I'm just taking note of my response.
Yeah. Well, remember that this is all we have created or found a really, unique situation in it, because we're inside the perimeter of Atlanta, the ring road that more or less defines the city, and we're inside it. But the thing is, there are these little ravines that run through, hills and ravines that run through this whole area. I mean, the whole city, actually, where it hasn't been flattened. And that actually isn't much of the city. And so there are forests running throughout
Oh,
the
that's
city.
wonderful.
And Terry, when we first got here, she was working on the 19th floor of a building, had its own resident hawk that she would watch every morning. But she could look out to the northwest and see nothing but trees.
Hmm.
I mean, if I showed you the map, you would see it's just nonstop houses, but she saw nothing but treetops.
Wow.
Except for the apartments right close in. So it's a unique city in that way.
Yeah.
Atlanta.
Yeah. So I mean, we're happy to be here. I mean, the other part is we own this house, and because we're old folks, the taxes are very low.
And
Nice.
you probably got it paid
The
off, right?
taxes are cut. Yeah, we get a huge break. I mean, huge. And so yeah, we couldn't leave even if we wanted to, because
Financially, it's advantageous to be where you are.
we would never find a place that we could live in
Yeah.
as cheaply and satisfyingly as this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm finding too, that I'm kind of stuck. I was on HR this morning, and one of the things that was said that was a surprise to me and really sad is that the cost of pet medicine has increased 1,400% in the last 5 years because pet insurance has come in. And so with pet insurance, you can afford those prices.
Yeah.
So thinking about the distortion that insurance has in so many ways, because then they also control the medicine, because they'll tell you what they pay for or won't pay for and will do or not do. So you're at their
Yeah.
Wow.
not your doctor's. Your doctor can prescribe it, but if they don't pay for it, it doesn't matter. You don't get it. So it's really interesting to see the distortion that insurance has had in our system.
Yeah, that's more than a trend.
Yeah,
That's a
deliberate. Yeah.
The weird thing is, though, some of the most important treatments that I've received since coming to this city, well, the most important is definitely totally orthodox through the medical field. The oncologist that I use, he's unorthodox. He gives me a bear hug every time I see him.
nice.
But but the treatment is not, and it's paid for by, luckily it's completely paid for by Medicare. But other thing, I found a masseuse who treats lymphatic blockage,
Oh, nice.
and it's working wonders for me. I was having some problems, and she's very good. And these people just sort of fly under the radar because they don't want to be, they don't want to go to the expense of putting themselves out there, or even possibly, scrutiny. Chiropractors. I know some old chiropractors, guys that when they pass from this earth will be taking a type of knowledge that just isn't learned anymore by many people.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And I've had issues, and I've gone in not for an adjustment at all, but just simply to have him feel around and test and tell me what's going on, and am I at risk or not? Because for my $90 I can find that out, whereas thousands of dollars worth of tests might not even tell me.
Right, exactly. Yep.
It's just extraordinary, the lack of any continuity in terms of effectiveness, actual effectiveness.
In continuity, it has the same smell to me as incontinence.
I noticed that too. I didn't mean it that way.
My tea, just a second.
Hey, bring me a cup.
Yeah. I could stand one.
No,
too.
I have some right back of me if I wanted it. But yeah, so I mean, the way I don't know if I've ever told the two of you, but the way I started painting again was I was sitting with some of Terry's friends, a woman who had been an artist for most of her life, and she's 81 now. And but we started talking about painting, and and I told her that I wanted to get back into it seriously. And she told me that, yeah, she did too. It's been 5 years. She's just sort of not done any. So this was New Year's, or a couple of days before New Year's Eve. So we made a New Year's resolution, and every 2 weeks we do a FaceTime to show each other.
Oh, nice. Nice.
And we do feel guilty if we didn't get to anything during that time, which is good. That's exactly
That's exactly right.
what's needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, would you consider a request from me for next week when we meet? You mentioned the word ravines that run in Atlanta. And it's like, I have a curiosity about what that looks like. And I'm wondering if you could do a sketch of the ravines that you're aware of, that, you know, what, because I don't know what a ravine is.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
you
this
don't?
case, it's a lot.
A waterway.
Yeah,
Yes.
these are a lot less severe than anything you'd find out west. They're a lot gentler.
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
But they are valleys, you know, like the houses will all be up here. There's a valley with a stream down the middle. And typically what'll happen is a good couple of 100 feet of forest, of a ribbon of forest grows along the water, because nobody can build down there anyway, because it's all flood zone. And so people leave it alone, and we have deer come through, coyotes, foxes. We see foxes. We don't see deer and coyotes in this area for some reason. That they feel it's too dangerous to come over toward us. But just, you know, half a mile away, they see all these animals all the time. We do see foxes. They seem to be a little more adjusted to the crush of humanity.
How close are you to a ravine?
Well, we're the closest real riparian situation, which means
What's that word?
Riparian, RIPARIAN, and that means natural stream, natural growth arising from that stream bed. We don't have that right next to us. What there is behind me, and the need for the big culvert, is a storm drain, which wouldn't run on its own, but it runs a torrent when there's a heavy rain. Didn't used to, but nowadays when we get these, you know, 2-inch in 1 hour rain events, it's a torrent. And
Right.
so we don't have the usual riparian, you know, undergrowth that would straddle each side of a stream. But 1/4 mile this way, and then stretching out in various fingers of growth, we have them very close.
Nice.
We're just as glad, because the cat's 15 and she loves to go out, and if there were coyotes at all within range, that would be dangerous. And the
But
deer
there's
would
little critters to eat there. Mice and moles and all sorts of things.
yeah, there's plenty for them to eat where they are, so they can leave us alone.
Did I hear you say that your wife invited you to do a sketch of something? Did I hear you say that?
Yeah, that was a card that he showed.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the cards, one of the drawings, the drawing of the man walking along the dirt road with his dog. That was
Yeah,
that was a postcard. Well, it wasn't a postcard. It was a card, of hers.
that was nice.
And she'd always liked it, but she wondered what it would look like in color.
Well, just know we're interested in seeing it if you are so moved to paint it.
Yeah, no, I can do that. I mean, easy just to walk down here later today and I'll at least get a photograph to start from.
Nice. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it is the remarkable feature of the city.
Yeah, no, I had no idea. And then,
And yeah, I mean,
I mean, we need wildlife corridors through cities, and those are natural.
these are
Corridors.
natural and they're,
It's just wonderful.
you
Yeah.
know, an awful lot of people are really are scared of those corridors.
Yes, yeah,
Their
yeah.
little French puffball, will run out there and get eaten. Now that doesn't happen very often, but it's quite possible. And the kitties as well, they can easily be eaten. So, they have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I mean, people get so angry. I have a drawing up here when I lived at this area called Glen Ivy in California. We were building a hot springs resort, and I mean, I can just show you. So this was drawn years ago.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
And so, I mean,
Wow.
we would walk this pathway at night between one of the houses where the house where I stayed for a while and the main installation facility.
And you drew.
Yeah, I drew this, yeah, years ago.
Would you be interested in adding color to it?
They could, yeah, maybe I could
I
try.
would love that.
I could try that. So one night, I mean, I heard rustling, and I'm pretty sure it was a cougar because we knew that there was one around. But I just kept walking and whistling, and the reason I'm pretty sure it was a cougar is my sighting of it. One day I was at the house and I saw this golden retriever walking up the driveway with its tail right up, and only when it got closer I realized it was a cougar. It was not a golden retriever. Just walked right up, right past the garage, and kept on walking.
Cool.
But it never. I think it ate one of our kittens, but other than that, or could have been coyotes. I know we had them all over the place. But if you can learn to live with that, if you have the slightest desire to do that.
Mhm. Right. If that's part of your, I don't know, the space inside of you, if it's all being held in the space inside of you, you can partake of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you understand you're part of it, not entitled and in control.
Yes.
We have this entitled thing that we can't be hurt, we can't be touched, nothing bad can ever happen to us. And if they dare to do anything, we're going to kill it. And we've gotten really good at that. Instead of accepting that we're part of it, and sometimes we die.
Yeah.
Now, this brings up an important point for me, is that I've been thinking a lot about something lately, that there is a point of focus, for any aspect of human life, or human spiritual life, if you will, or you could say consciousness, in fact. And I believe that the number of people in this planet are now starting to coalesce into finding a place within this point of focus, you know, having a, let's just say, a realistic perception of of how we live on this earth, you know, how we pay sing praises to the all that is, however you want to do it. I mean, however you want to do it, I don't care. There, you know, that's why I sometimes avoid the word God, you know, because it's just so fraught.
Yeah.
But these things are starting to come. I mean, you know, I work along with a lot of groups, and it keeps, you know, just because it's fun, you know, but it keeps coming up. People are really beginning to see that there is this sort of collective point of focus that we can belong to, or that we can not even belong. It's not like an organization at all. It's like, you know, just be with and assume that position that I am one with the natural world, or, you know, the universal world, or however you want to look at it. So this is a very important subject to me.
Yeah.
I noticed I'm saying this because I know it's important to both of you as well. But I'm noticing more and more people are just.
Yeah, I'm hearing it too. Yeah, in lots of different places it's coming up, and people are daring to talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The waking dream that I had this morning has to do with the relationship between architecture and the environment. And in this dream, and of course, I'm not going to make any sense because it's a dream, but the architecture had a symbiotic relationship with the environment and resulted in a deep commonality that all of the people felt.
Hmm.
It was very moving.
Oh, yeah.
It's that deep commonality that the relationship between architecture and environment can have.
Yeah, they are experimenting now with growing houses as well as printing houses from natural materials. So there is actual things happening in architecture from that perspective.
Catherine, I wanted to ask you, is there anything that you can do about the mic that you're using to make it, because it muffles, it muffles your voice a little bit for me. Is there anything that you can do?
I'm not using a mic, I'm using the computer. So I don't actually have a microphone.
You're speaking into the computer.
Yeah.
That's why it's muffled, I guess, a little bit. Oh, okay. Okay.
No, I don't have a.
That's okay. Because you still come across. It takes a little to get it.
Yeah.
Well, say again what you said, please.
You were talking about, you know, what do they call that? Printing.
Oh, thank you. Yes, they are actually learning how to grow houses, and I haven't explored that a whole lot. I've just heard that term.
Yeah.
And they're printing houses from natural materials like mud. So they're doing a lot to make a real connection between architecture and nature, and instead of bringing in things to build. I have a friend who's an architect, and he's very big about using nature to heat, to cool, to do all of that, to design the house so it uses the abilities of the site to do those things, so that you don't have to be generative about it. So it will passively hold heat and do that kind of thing. So there are people who are really thinking about that in architecture, and there's some real issues. We're having problems with sand and cement. So cement has been in such huge use worldwide that we're now starting to actually destroy islands for the sand because we don't have enough sand to make cement. So people are looking at how to do that in a different way. I mean, there's just so many of us that we're truly utilizing everything the earth has, and it's just not cool. Yeah, so people are experimenting. It's small, but it's there.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we don't have enough trees to do stick bell houses. I mean, that has to shift. So the printing is really kind of nice because you can print with mud, and the houses are really lovely. And they're also, they would hold heat like adobe. So there's lots of different ways of building that are not so hard on the planet. Straw bale, all those.
And that printing is called what?
3D printing.
That's it, right. That's
Yeah.
it, right. Fascinating. We are intelligent and we can do amazing things if our values are shared in common, if we're clear about our values that we're sharing in common.
Yeah, a sense of reverence and curiosity go a long way.
Nice. Reverence and curiosity. Curious reverence. Reverent curiosity.
And also, I mean, sort of the flip side of curiosity, or the companion to curiosity, is not creating such a self-image for yourself that you get locked into it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, to me, one of the deepest traps that we fall into, that we have to defend. As soon as you can let go of that defense. I mean, it reminded me last week, Ani, I've thought about this when you suddenly said, it's just not sitting right with me that we're so bandying about so many, news events, and you just sort of put it straight out into our midst, and it stopped us cold. And I realized that sort of thing needs to be done a lot more, these public events things. And if you can get through that with barely a flutter of defense, then you're able to work together.
Yeah.
It's almost like the human nature, we're born of nature. We're a human species. We're intelligent. The capacities that we have are amazing. If we humans could use our human capacities to be non-human centric, in all that we do, be non-human centric, we would be the species nature. We would mature.
Yeah, exactly.
And be sustainable on Earth. As all species before us have been and are. They've sustained themselves. If we apply our intelligence to be non-human centric, we will have matured.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, so whenever I look into any single branch of the tree of life, I forget what they call those branches, but any order of animal, they go back millions upon millions upon millions of years. Now, the only historic record we have is only about 6,000-7,000 years old. I mean, that's That's a drop of sand in the ocean. It's nothing.
We are so young.
And we are so young and we are so wrapped up in it. It's just incredible. And
We're like teenagers.
we have no right to even believe that we're going to survive. I mean, sharks have been around for, I don't know,
Yeah.
hundreds of million years. And then you read
Yeah,
about
yeah.
different types of birds, and
Yeah.
which are actually the descendants of the dinosaurs. They're beginning to think now, with some solidarity amongst the scientific world, that we have living dinosaurs all around us.
Yeah.
And they're lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've recently picked Barbara Marx Hubbard's book back up, Conscious Evolution.
Hmm.
Reading it anew, and it's like it's in my veins right now, and it's like it's such a different approach because nature evolves.
Mhm.
Nature evolves, and nature transforms. We are nature. We are transforming, and there is a coding for conscious evolution of humanity. If we just give it a little attention and open ourselves to that, there is like a higher stream of consciousness that if we allow our own vibration just to rise a little bit, it's like there's floating waves of intelligence that we can tap into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's
real.
it's just I had a dream this morning. I'm not sure whether I was asleep or not. I can't tell, but I had let's just say, a vision. And I was first laying there thinking of myself as just this big bag of substance, of elements of matter. They're bones, so that it has stiffness, and there's a lot of fluids in there. The lymph I'm trying to move around, blood, air, full of air. And so I started there, but then started to think, how that relates to what's all around me. Just about then, or maybe it was a little later, the cat came in and she sat on my tummy. So like 4 a.m, and she just needed, and sat there for a while and brushing her face, my face with her tail. And I began to realize that we are part of this huge interworking. And where did we ever start thinking in terms of I? Because of course, the bag is filled with, I'm told, half of it at least is not, are organisms that are not me. In terms of DNA and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And some of them may have come in through my mother.
Oh, absolutely.
So a lot of it did.
They're seeing problems with kids
mitochondria
that aren't birthed. The cesarean section is not a good way to be born.
Both can't talk at the same thing. I want to hear what you're saying, but
I think that that was Catherine made a good interjection there, that there are problems even in transferring what we need to have to live because of the way we are now living. And so I guess, just to cut it, make a long story short, because I can't remember the details anyway, but it was quite an experience to go through all of that, and this feeling of thankfulness that came up. And the thankfulness immediately led to, singing the praise, the joy, to use a religious word, but the praise for this encompassment, whatever it is that's all around me, it's just like incredible. And then that left me in joy. I mean, just this feeling of absolute joy. And I'm beginning to realize that it is possible to live in that state.
Yes.
Not only possible, it's easy, but only if you let go of the other stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's not
yeah,
a real impediment. That's something we made up. I mean, in other words, it is easy. Anyway,
Yeah.
so that was my dream, sort of.
That was my podcast, which I'm still trying to get up because of technical difficulties, but that's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah,
The whole podcast is
you've
about
been
that.
talking to us for months, along these lines, and I just love it.
Say it in your own words, Catherine.
Well, Robert did it just perfectly. I mean, that was the same picture that I was painting in the podcast, is that to understand that we're filled with all these thousands of living things that aren't us in another living system filled with thousands of living things, some of which are us, that it is the same thing, that we are so connected. And the more I learn about our biology and how it is connected to the rest, how we need that we need our hands in the dirt. We need to be born through the birth canal. I mean, everybody's biome is unique. It's like your fingerprint. No two people have the same kinds of bugs and bacteria and fungi. They're all different because we're different. And we get our first dose through the birth canal. So children that are born with cesarean section don't have it. And they're finding that as they grow, they have problems because they haven't been inoculated in that way. So they're actually trying to artificially do that for kids that are born with a cesarean section. I mean, we so need that bacteria and those viruses and those fungi in order to be alive. I mean, they're doing what they do. They are creating the conditions that support our life. That's what they're doing. They're creating the conditions that make life possible. And we need to do that too. That's what everything does. And if we can get into that rhythm, and we only know that when we have this feeling inside, the euphoria, the rightness, the knowing that comes when you're really there, that's when you're connected with everything. And so being in that state allows us absolute freedom to do whatever comes from that place. But when we dampen it down and then do other things, we get in the way of all that, which is where we've been for, a good long time. Thousands of years.
When we shift into our socially conditioned mind.
Yeah, yes, our whole society has told us not to pay any attention to that.
Right.
And it creates, we're so busy, you can't do it. I mean, it's just done everything it can to keep us separate.
I'm becoming so aware of my socially conditioned mind, while my true inner being is doing its thing too. I mean, I'm so aware of the duality within me.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It's hard not to have that if you're raised in this society.
Right.
Yeah.
But the first step is to start paying attention.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
Or as a friend of mine used to say, the world needs, oh no, how does it go? Be alert. The world needs more alerts.
Yes.
Nice. Nice and true.
So anyway, I've been getting calls, and I think I'd let it go, but I think I'd better get off and call him. It's after 1:30. I'd better call this guy.
Thank you for sharing your brilliance with us.
Yes, very much so.
You two have done that plenty so far with me, so I'm reciprocating. No, I'll that's an interesting idea. I will take a photo this afternoon of the nearest little, I called it ravine. I mean, it's really just a stream bed, but, and I'll draw it up.
Thank you.
I'll at least draw it up the way that this, you know, in the sense that this one was drawn up. I may not get the colors in yet.
Robert, I'm wondering if Google, from an aerial perspective, would show the ravines in the city.
Oh, yeah. It would.
That would be interesting to look at. Maybe we can play with that.
I mean,
have
you know, the trees are sort of blotched, you know, I mean, but it would show the tops of the houses and you can see the ribbons of forest. And it's real forest. I mean, there is enough of it continuous that it's real forest.
Wonderful. Oh,
What
this
would
is
the
great.
what would the URL be to?
It would be Google Earth. And you can just Google that and download that app.
Oh, I was thinking you could even do Google Maps. Google Earth would have a higher, what do you call it? Accuracy,
Resolution.
resolution.
Mhm.
So Google Earth would probably be better. Anyway, I'd better go do this. So
Okay.
take care.
Bye-bye.
Till next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Are we gonna go or stay?
No, I gotta go too.
Okay, thank you. Bless you for setting this up. Thanks. Bye.